What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 22:30 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East and Europe and also Asia. What you're looking at here are two presidential doomsday planes that are up in the air over Iowa and Missouri right now. And this is extremely unusual to have two presidential doomsday planes in the air at the same time so late at night. One of them took off from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, which is like the Area 51 of the eastern U.S., and one of them took off from Lincoln, Nebraska, and these planes are responsible for transporting the president during a nuclear war. It's an airborne command post, and the president of the U.S. can command the entire U.S. nuclear arsenal from the air on these planes. So we have two of them in the air tonight, which is extremely unusual. And I want to remind you guys that yesterday, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration posted a NOTAM for Iran. A NOTAM is a warning for pilots. And this particular warning was saying that there's going to be rocket launches in north central Iran over the next 3 days. So it looks like Iran is going to launch their retaliation strike on Israel in the coming days. We'll have to wait and see. But the U.S. did issue a NOTAM for northern Iran for rocket launches, and now we have doomsday planes in the air. There was a doomsday plane in the air earlier, and it had its transponder off throughout much of the afternoon, and then it turned its transponder on over western Illinois. So a total of 3 doomsday planes airborne today. That is a lot, okay? That's very unusual. And earlier this afternoon and earlier in the evening, there were 2 nuclear war command and control planes in addition to 3 that were airborne earlier in the afternoon. So that's a total of 5 nuclear war command and control planes in the air today. And these planes are responsible for remotely launching all of our Minuteman III ICBMs, and they're also responsible for communicating with our nuclear-armed submarines and issuing launch orders. And we also had this nuke sniffer plane that was patrolling along the west coast of the United States. This is extremely unusual and extremely concerning. It had the call sign Adam 36, and it was flying along the entire west coast of the United States from Seattle all the way down to LA, and it was actually flying pretty low off the coast of California. So I don't know what was going on with this plane here, but this is extremely unusual. And at the same time, there were 2 nuclear war command and control planes, the Boeing E-6Bs, and then there was also a doomsday plane in the air as well. And this was earlier in the afternoon, 3 nuclear war command and control planes here. Okay, so a total of 5 today, and actually 2 of these nuclear war command and control planes are still in the air right now. We have one off the coast of California here. We have one off the coast of South Carolina. So this is extremely unusual, guys. 3 presidential doomsday planes, 5 nuclear war command and control planes, and a nuke sniffer patrolling the west coast. And for there to be 2 of these up in the air still this late at night is extremely unusual. So U.S. nuclear forces are on high alert. They're bracing for this Iranian strike on Israel. We know that Israel is on maximum alert. They've recalled all their fighter jet pilots and all their air defense operators from leave. And here we have the flight path of a U.S. Air Force VIP plane that went to Stratcom headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive 30% discount on their 1 week emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link in the description below this video, which is preparewithnYprepper.com. The normal price for their 1 week freeze-dried emergency food supply is $80. They're knocking it down to $50 for 1 week of emergency food with a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into a small lockable ammo can with a waterproof gasket. They also have a general store, and to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnYprepper.com. And their general store has everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always doing discounts. So check it out. Use the link preparewithnYprepper.com to get over 35% off of the My Patriot Supply 1 week emergency food supply, and also to get access to their general store. And they're always doing discounts there. I'll leave the link in the description below this video. And Israel has been practicing attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. This is extremely serious. Israel has been conducting Air Force drills in recent days that include preparing to target Iranian nuclear facilities and other key infrastructure. The London-based Alaf News reported, citing a Western security official. This comes amid warnings that Iran is preparing to attack Israel in retaliation for its killing of 7 IRGC officers, including 2 top generals, in an airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus. And the FBI arrested a teenager suspected of collaborating with ISIS in Idaho for planning to attack churches in the last days of Ramadan. So today was the last day of Ramadan. So if you guys are going to be going to church this week, I recommend being aware of your surroundings and carry a self-defense tool if it's legal for you to do so. Israeli military officials estimate that Iran's response to the Israeli airstrike on Iran's Damascus consulate will not come until after the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr, which ends on April 12th. This was reported by Israeli Channel 12 News. The IDF also thinks an attack will target military or strategic assets and not civilian sites. Israel is preparing for the possibility of an attack coming from any of a number of proxies or from Iran itself, as well as the possibility of a multi-pronged assault, the report added. So very interesting. So we have Israeli military officials saying that Iran is not going to launch their retaliation strike until April 12th. So that contradicts everything they've been saying the last few days, that Iran was going to strike after Ramadan ends, right around the end of Ramadan. Now they're pushing it out to April the 12th. Very interesting. And the mayor of Haifa in Israel, that's in northern Israel, conducted an interview with Israeli Channel 12 where he told residents to get a landline phone and stock up on food and water. So he's trying to tell Israelis to prepare for war with Lebanon. And American officials told CNN that the Biden administration rejected Netanyahu's statement regarding the date of the Rafah invasion. And Iran's IRGC Navy commander said, "We can close the Strait of Hormuz, but we are not doing so. However, if the enemy comes to disrupt us, we will review our policy." And I want to remind you guys that much of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. So if the IRGC tries to blockade that, that would be catastrophic for the entire world. And we had a Royal British Navy Astute class multi-purpose nuclear submarine arrive in Kings Bay, Georgia earlier today. And what you're looking at here are the NOTAMs for Iran. And there was actually a new NOTAM posted today talking about an aerial parade that's going to take place within a circle 70 nautical mile radius centered on Tehran. Okay, so some kind of air show over the capital of Iran. And this NOTAM is for 70 nautical miles around all of Tehran, the capital. And so I don't know if they're going to do a parade to celebrate the strike on Israel after they do the strike this week. And then they're going to celebrate that next week. I have no idea. Or if this is just a cover for fighter jet activity. I don't know. And then here's the NOTAM about the rocket launches. Okay. And these rocket launches are expected to take place starting tonight through Thursday night from 03:30 to 10:30 in the morning local time in Iran, which is 7.5 hours ahead of Eastern time in the US. Here are the coordinates of the boundary of this NOTAM. And so you can see the rocket launches are going to take place east of Tehran in the desert. Okay, so the US obviously has intelligence if they put up this NOTAM. And we have some very disturbing news coming out of China. China has apparently moved missile systems close to South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. Here you can see 3 missile systems that were put on the coastline of China here close to the Korean Peninsula. And you can see the radii of these different missiles, and much of these missiles can reach South Korea. They've also placed half a dozen missile systems along their coastline near Taiwan, and all of these missiles can reach Taiwan and the surrounding sea. So if the U.S. were to move naval assets in this area, they would be potentially targeted by these Chinese missiles. Okay, aircraft carriers, destroyers, and then they also have missile systems close to the Philippines here. Okay, on these reefs, they put missile systems as well, and that puts parts of the Philippines in the range of these missiles. And then they also put some close to Japan. Okay, so this is extremely concerning, and another sign that China is preparing to go to war with Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan, and also even the Philippines. And the United States needs to revive the lines of communication with Moscow that helped both countries avoid nuclear war during the Cold War, the top American general in Europe said. General Christopher Cavoli, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander and head of U.S. European Command, said, "We could read each other's signals. We knew how to send signals to each other. Almost all of that is gone now." And the German Air Force had to scramble fighter jets from their tactical Air Force Wing 71 from the Laj Air Force Base today, together with NATO partners from Sweden, to check a Russian reconnaissance aircraft that was flying off the coast of the Gotland Island, which is a Swedish island in the Baltic Sea. And many experts have said that the Gotland Island is critical for Sweden and for NATO because it's right in the middle of the Baltic Sea, and Russia could try to take the Gotland Island from Sweden. And if they did that, Russia could put missile systems on that island. And by doing that, Russia would deny NATO access to all of the Baltic Sea. And UK Foreign Secretary and former Prime Minister David Cameron met with former US President Donald Trump in Florida and plans to meet with congressional leaders aiming to overcome Republican resistance and secure approval for a new aid package to support Ukraine. And it's been confirmed today that Ukraine will receive 32 F-16s from Greece as Greece looks to replace their F-16s with F-35s. And this is in addition to the 24 F-16s that were promised by the Netherlands. So when all is said and done, Ukraine is going to have over 50 F-16s. And the Russian armed forces have captured another key town in eastern Ukraine. They captured Pervomaisk, and the Ukrainian forces that were holding that town have since retreated to the nearby town of Netalove. And reports have appeared that Ukrainian hackers destroyed the Moss Collector IT infrastructure. Moss Collector is responsible for the operation of underground water pipes, communication cables, power cables, and heating networks in Moscow. Ukrainian hackers reportedly turned off 87,000 sensors of various warning systems throughout Moscow and the Moscow region. In addition, 70 servers and at least 90 terabytes of company data were destroyed. Wow. So they hacked into some kind of an infrastructure company in Moscow. Very, very interesting. And I want to just show you guys where the Russians have made gains in eastern Ukraine. So you can see here Pervomysk. So the Russians just captured this town, and they also captured this area right here. So just like I told you guys, the Russians are breaking through, and this is nothing. This is just the beginning. Okay, Russia hasn't even sent that massive force that they're going to be sending in the coming weeks and months. And once they send that force, Russia could break through the Ukrainian lines in multiple locations, and they could try to reach the Dnieper River. Okay, but I do expect Russia to make massive gains here in eastern Ukraine this summer, unfortunately. And Germany plans a massive expansion of its artillery forces from the current 4 to 13 battalions. The German Bundeswehr will effectively double the size of the artillery force in the next few years, from around 3,200 to 6,000 soldiers, from just over 120 tube artillery guns to 300 howitzers, from about 40 rocket launchers to 80 systems, the defense journal Hartpunkt wrote. So Germany is trying to build up their land forces after they've been downsizing their land forces over the last 30 years since the Cold War ended. A lot of Western European countries have been downsizing their militaries, which is just absolutely insane. And the creation of the headquarters of the NATO ground forces has begun in Mikkeli, Finland, which is just 140 kilometers from the Russian border. So NATO is building a massive base in Finland, just 140 kilometers from Russia. And U.S. Central Command reported that it targeted a Houthi air defense system in Yemen, and CENTCOM separately intercepted a Houthi drone over the Red Sea. The U.S. Navy's USS Mason and CENTCOM forces on Tuesday successfully engaged and destroyed one inbound anti-ship ballistic missile launched by Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists from Yemen over the Gulf of Aden, CENTCOM said. The anti-ship ballistic missile was likely targeting the MV Yorktown, a U.S.-flagged, U.S.-owned vessel being escorted by a U.S. warship, the USS Laboon and the USS Mason. There were no injuries or damage reported, and radiation levels were detected 1,600 times above the safe limit in the city of Khabarovsk on the Russian border with China. And Serbia is going to be arming its air force with NATO fighter jets from France amid heightened tensions between Russia and France. Belgrade and Paris have reached an agreement on the acquisition of the first Rafale fighter jets. Purchase contracts will be signed in the next 2 months. Serbian President Vučić announced this on April the 9th after a meeting with his French counterpart Macron. Russia has lost control over Armenia, and now it is slowly losing control over Serbia as Serbia starts turning closer to Europe. So this is going to infuriate Putin. Serbia has always been a staunch ally of Russia, and now the Serbian president is acquiring NATO weapons, and he said many times he wants Serbia to join the EU and maybe eventually NATO. And Russia is going to be launching some kind of heavy rocket into space tomorrow at 12 p.m. Moscow time, so noon Moscow time. They're going to launch this massive heavy rocket into space. But that's some of the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news, and I will be monitoring the situation in the Middle East. Iran is going to strike Israel any night now, any day now. And when that happens, I will go live as long as necessary to cover it. So until tomorrow, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.